The lanterns of Eldon Hollow burned low against the midnight fog, their light caught in the rain like gold drowning in smoke. The marketplace, once loud with the calls of merchants, had fallen silent. Only one voice broke the night now, the voice of a man auctioning a girl. 17 winters, he said, his tone smooth and sharp as a knife. Healthy, strong, and untouched by the curse. The last of the Linvale bloodline. The crowd pressed closer beneath dripping awnings, coins clinking like hunger. The girl stood on the platform, her wrists bound in iron. Ira Linvale. Her skin was too pale for the firelight, her eyes too bright for the dark. She kept her chin up even as mud splashed against her bare feet. Somewhere beneath her ribs, she felt the echo of her mother's voice. Never let them see you beg. So she didn't. But when the man beside her yanked her forward by the chain and the crowd jeered, her stomach twisted. Her father had been gone 5 years. Her home burned. The only thing left of her name was the debt it carried. And tonight, that debt was being sold. A shadow moved at the edge of the square. At first, no one noticed, just a figure standing in the rain. His cloak dark with water, his head bowed. He stood too still to be a merchant, too silent to be a drunk. The scent of him cut through the market's rot and smoke. Wild pine, cold iron, and something older. When the auctioneer called, "Who will pay the price of her freedom?" The figure lifted his head, and the world shifted. "I will," he said. The crowd fell into uneasy murmurs. The man stepped forward, the hood of his cloak falling back to reveal a face carved in shadow and rain. Sharp jaw, dark hair slicked to his temples, eyes the color of molten gold. A Wolf's eyes. The auctioneer hesitated. "And who speaks?" "Lorian Vale," the man said. "Alpha of the Hollow Moon Pack." The crowd recoiled as if burned. Even the torches seemed to flicker away from him. "An Alpha?" Someone whispered. "Here?" Ira stared at him, her heart slamming against her ribs. The Alpha's gaze swept the platform once. Not cruel, not soft. "Measuring, what's her price?" he asked. The auctioneer stammered. 50 in silver. 2 in gold. Lorian reached into his cloak and drew a blade, not to threaten, but to cut his own palm. Blood ran down his fingers, dark and shimmering in the rain. The crowd gasped. "I pay in blood," he said. "It's worth more." The auctioneer froze. "What?" Before he could finish, Lorian pressed his bleeding hand to the ground. The air around them cracked with energy, a pulse that made the earth tremble. The torches flared. Every Wolf in hiding lifted its head. Era felt it before she understood it. The pull beneath her skin. The ancient hum of something alive recognizing her name. The auctioneer stumbled back, pale. That's Forbidden's magic." Lorian's voice stayed calm. "Gold is the currency of men. Blood is the promise of wolves." He looked up at the girl on the platform. Rain slid down his face, dripping from his jaw. "Her price is paid." Ira's chains fell open. The iron links hit the wood with a sound that echoed through the square. "Stop him!" The auctioneer screamed, but no one moved. The wolves in the crowd, the ones who had been pretending to be men, were staring at Lorian now with eyes that glowed faintly under the rain. He turned to Ira and held out his uninjured hand. "Come." She hesitated. "Why?" She whispered. Lorian's gaze softened. "Barely. Because no one else will." Something inside her broke at that. She stepped down, her bare feet sinking into the mud, and took his hand. The instant their skin touched, warmth surged through her veins. Her pulse quickened. The world blurred. "What did you do to me?" She breathed. "Nothing you didn't already carry." He said. And then the soldiers came. They burst from the alleys with torches and crossbows. Men bearing the crest of the Iron Guard, sworn to hunt wolves wherever they hid. "Alpha!" One shouted. "Stand down." Lorian pushed Ira behind him. His eyes flared gold again. "Stay close," he said. Before she could answer, the guards opened fire. The first arrow sliced through the rain, silver-tipped, whistling through the dark. Lorian caught it midair. The next one he didn't catch. It struck his shoulder, burning through flesh and muscle. He didn't flinch. He moved instead. Ira had never seen anyone move like that, not like a man. Not like a beast, but something between. One heartbeat he was in front of her. The next he was among the guards. His body shifting mid-stride, bones cracking. Fur, bursting through skin. The wolf that stood where he'd been was enormous, silver-black fur glistening with rain, teeth bright as knives. The men screamed and it was over in seconds. When silence returned, Lorien stood panting in the wreckage, his claws red, his breath ragged. He shifted back slowly, blood dripping from the wound in his shoulder. Ira stared at him, not in fear, but in awe. "You're hurt," she said. He wiped his mouth, his voice gravel. "I've been worse. Why did you do this?" He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time she saw something behind the alpha's steel, regret. "Because once," he said quietly, "someone sold my sister for gold." She blinked, rain running down her cheeks like tears. "What happened to her?" "She died in a cage." The words struck her like lightning. "And you think saving me fixes that?" "No," he said. "But it stops it from happening again." Thunder rolled across the valley. Lorien turned toward the forest, his silhouette half swallowed by mist. "They'll come after us now. You should run. I have nowhere to go." He glanced back, his expression unreadable. "Then stay close. But don't thank me yet." "Why?" "Because the blood I paid wasn't a gift," he said. "It was a bond." Her stomach turned cold. "What bond?" "The kind that doesn't break." Before she could ask more, he disappeared into the trees, and the pull in her chest, that strange new heartbeat, dragged her after him. They didn't stop until dawn, when the rain finally eased. The forest opened into a ravine filled with mist and moonlight. Lorien sank to one knee, pressing his hand to his wound. The silver-tipped arrow still burned faintly beneath his skin. Era knelt beside him. "Let me see." He didn't answer. She reached out, ignoring his growl, and touched the wound. The moment her fingers brushed his skin, the burn dimmed. The light faded. Lorien froze. "What did you do?" Ira pulled her hand back. "I don't know." He looked at her differently then. Wariness mixed with something like fear. "You shouldn't be able to do that." "Do what?" "Draw silver from blood." She frowned. "What are you saying?" He stood, towering over her, his eyes burning gold again. "You're not just human." She stared at him. "Then what am I?" He didn't answer. Instead, he turned toward the rising sun. "The truth will cost you more than gold." And as the light broke over the trees, painting the blood on his skin gold, she realized she'd traded one kind of prison for another. Only this time. The cage was made of destiny. The forest never slept in Eldon Hollow, even when the sun cut through the mist. Even when the rivers shimmered like glass, there was always movement, a shifting beneath the roots. A heartbeat that wasn't the Earth's. The wolves of the Hollow Moon Pack lived here, hidden in the deep valleys and caves where men dared not walk. And now, Ira Linvale walked among them. It had been 3 days since the Alpha had bought her freedom with blood. And though the chains were gone from her wrists, the weight of his words had only grown heavier. Bond that doesn't break. She could still feel it. A faint pull in her chest. A thread that tightened whenever Lorien drew near. When he left the camp, her heart beat slower. When he returned, it quickened. It wasn't love. It was something older, something that made her bones ache. The wolves had accepted her without question. They didn't speak to her much. They watched instead, curious, wary, sniffing the air when she passed as if she carried thunder in her veins. Maybe. She did. The camp was built in a hollow of the forest, between 2 waterfalls that met like crossed blades. The air smelled of pine, smoke, and wet stone. The wolves moved like shadows, quiet, deliberate, efficient. Eira sat by the fire, turning a piece of wood between her fingers. The pack healer, a woman named Maelra, knelt across from her, grinding herbs in a stone bowl. "You still don't eat enough," Maelra said. "I'm not hungry." "You're alive." "You're hungry." Ira looked up, meeting the woman's green eyes. "Does he always bleed for strangers?" Maelra smiled faintly. "He's never bled for anyone. Not since the night his sister died." "I heard," Ira said quietly. "She was younger than you," Maelra said, voice softening. "Sold to a lord. When he found her, it was too late. He tore down the city that bought her. Burned it to ash." Ira's throat tightened. "And now?" "Now he leads a pack that believes vengeance can be mercy." She frowned. "And me?" Melra's gaze was sharp. You're the first thing he's fought for that isn't vengeance. Before Ira could answer, the air shifted. The wolves lifted their heads all at once. He was back. Lorien stepped into the camp from the river path, his shirt torn, his arm wrapped in a fresh bandage. The moment his boots hit the ground, the thread inside Era's chest pulled tight, sharp. Immediate alive, he saw her by the fire and stopped. Eat, he said. It wasn't a request. Ira arched a brow. Is that an order, Alpha? Lorien's lips curved slightly, though his eyes stayed hard. Consider it advice. Melra smirked and stood. I'll fetch more broth. Try not to bite each other while I'm gone. When she left, silence stretched between them. Era looked at the bloodstains seeping through Lorien's bandage. You went hunting? He nodded. Men, not beasts. She swallowed. The Iron Guard? They're searching the valley. Your father sent them. Her chest tightened. Then he's still alive, for now. Ira stood abruptly, the firelight catching the gold in her hair. He'll come for me. I know. Then why aren't we running? Lorien's gaze met hers, steady and unflinching. Because running doesn't change what you are. Her heart skipped. You keep saying that. Then tell me what I am. The Alpha's silence was heavy. Finally he said, You remember the night I paid for you? How could I forget? When the blood touched the ground, the earth answered. She nodded. It felt like thunder. It wasn't thunder, Lorien said. It was recognition. Blood answers blood. Ira frowned. You mean... He took a step closer. You carry Wolf blood, Era, ancient blood. The kind that once bound my kind to the moon. Her breath caught. That's not possible. My mother was human. Lorien's eyes darkened. Your mother was marked. Half of her blood came from the first wolves, the ones who walked as gods before the curse. She shook her head. You're lying. I wish I were. Ira took a step back. No, I'm not. I can't be one of you. You're not one of us, he said quietly. You're something greater. That's why your father sold you. That's why the guard hunts you. I'm nothing but a debt, she whispered. He reached out, slow, deliberate, and brushed his fingers against the iron scar around her wrist. This isn't what you are. It's what they made you. Her pulse raced. And what would you make me? Lorien's gaze softened just slightly. Free. The word landed between them like a spark. For a moment she wanted to believe it. But freedom felt like a lie, a word men used to sell cages. She looked away. You shouldn't have bought me. I didn't buy you. Her eyes snapped back to his. Then what did you do? I claimed you, he said simply. Her breath hitched. You what? The bond isn't just a debt. It's a tie between bloodlines. When I paid with my blood, I tied my life to yours. Ira stared at him, stunned. You mean if I die? I die, he finished. She took a step toward him, fury rising through the fear. You had no right. His expression didn't change. I had no choice. You always have a choice. His jaw clenched. Not when the moon calls it fate. Ira's eyes burned. Then you're a fool. Maybe, he said. But at least you're alive to call me one. The words hit harder than they should have. Eir turned away, her breath shaking. The forest outside the camp whispered with the sound of running water. The moon hung low through the mist, full and white, watching. Behind her, Lorien's voice dropped to a whisper. The bond will protect you. Even if you hate me for it. She didn't answer, because hate wasn't what scared her. What scared her was that, deep down, she could feel the bond too. That faint, living thread connecting their hearts. And when she closed her eyes, she couldn't tell where his pulse ended and hers began. That night she dreamed of blood, of fire, of a woman standing in a field beneath a broken moon. The woman turned toward her, same eyes, same face, and spoke in a voice that wasn't entirely human. You carry the first bond, child, the curse that binds Alpha to Moon. And when blood meets blood again, the world will break. Ira jolted awake, gasping. Her skin glowed faintly under the moonlight streaming through the tent flap. The faint silver light shimmered along her hands, pulsing with the same rhythm as her heartbeat. Lorien was already there. He'd felt it, the bond, through his own veins. He entered without a word, his eyes sharp, his breath uneven. "It's happening," she whispered. He knelt beside her, his hand gripping hers. The glow brightened. "She's waking inside you," he said. "The blood of the first wolves." Her voice trembled. "What happens if she wakes completely?" Lorien looked at her. Not like a leader, not even like a savior, but like a man standing at the edge of something he couldn't stop. "Then the world remembers what it was made from," he said. "And we lose everything." The rain had come back to Eldon Hollow, heavy and relentless, seeping through the forest canopy like grief falling from the sky. The wolves moved quietly through the downpour, scenting the air for danger. Somewhere beyond the ridge, the Iron Guard were advancing, their torches burning through the night like fireflies of death. But in the deepest part of the camp, beneath the great cedar roots that hid the Alpha's den, Ira Linvale wasn't thinking about soldiers. She was thinking about the heartbeat inside her. It wasn't hers. Not anymore. Every night it grew louder, that ancient rhythm that pulsed beneath her ribs like a second soul, whispering in a language older than the moon. She could hear it now, even through the rain. Blood remembers blood, and she was terrified of what it remembered. Lorien watched her from the other side of the den. The firelight carved gold across his face, catching in his eyes, turning them molten. His left shoulder was still bandaged, though the wound had nearly closed. He hadn't said much since the night of her dream. He didn't need to. The silence between them was louder than any words. When she finally spoke, her voice was low. "It's stronger every night." Lorien's gaze flicked to her hands, pale, trembling, faintly luminous in the firelight. "She's waking." "She?" "The first Volf," he said. "The one who bound her blood to the moon and her soul to ours. She sleeps in the bloodline, in yours." Ira shook her head. "You make it sound like I'm carrying a ghost." He stared into the fire. "Not a ghost. A god." Her stomach turned cold. "Then what happens when she wakes?" His answer came too fast. "I won't let that happen." "You can't stop it, Lorien," she said. "I feel it. She's part of me." "You're not her," he said sharply. "You're you." Her eyes lifted to his. "Then why can I feel your heartbeat when you're not in the room?" The words silenced him. She leaned forward. "Why does my blood burn when you bleed? Why do I dream of your past, things I could never have seen?" Lorien's jaw tightened. "Because of the bond." "The bond," she echoed bitterly. "The one you forced on me." His head snapped up. "I didn't force it. You didn't ask, either." For the first time, something flickered behind his eyes. Guilt. Real and raw, he stood, turning away. "You don't understand what it cost me." "Then make me understand." He hesitated, his shoulders tense, the rain outside echoing through the den like a drumbeat. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "The blood I gave that night wasn't just mine. It was sacred blood. Alpha blood. When I bled for you, I didn't just buy your freedom. I offered the moon my life in place of yours." Ira frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said quietly, "if the first Volf fully wakes in you, she come for me first." Her throat tightened. "Why? Because I'm the last one born of her line," he said. "The blood that began the curse. The blood that must end it." The fire cracked between them, sending sparks into the air. Ira stood slowly. "You knew this all along?" "Yes." "And you didn't tell me?" "No." She stepped closer, fury and fear twisting together. "You tied your life to mine knowing she'd kill you." "I tied it," he said, meeting her gaze, "because you deserve to live long enough to choose your fate." Her voice broke. "That's not mercy. That's all I had left to give." She wanted to hate him for it, for his arrogance, his silence, his sacrifice she never asked for. But standing there, she saw the truth behind the steel. He was afraid. Not of dying. Of losing her before he did. The thought hit her harder than it should have. Before she could speak, the ground trembled. Lorien turned toward the mouth of the den. "They're here. The Iron Guard." He shook his head slowly. "No, something worse." The wolves outside began to howl. Long, low cries that shook the trees. Ira's pulse spiked. "What is it?" Lorien's eyes burned gold. "The old blood. It's coming for you." Before she could respond, a shriek tore through the forest. Not human, not Volf. The fire in the den guttered out. "Stay here," he ordered, drawing his blade. She grabbed his arm. "Lorien, do not follow me," he said, voice sharp enough to cut. "If I don't come back, you will." Their eyes met, gold and silver, light and storm dot, and then he was gone. The rain swallowed everything. Ira waited for what felt like hours, every muscle trembling, her skin hot with the pulse of that second heartbeat. Then, faintly, the sound of a roar. Deep, violent, unending dot. She couldn't stay. She ran, out into the storm, through the mist and mud, her bare feet pounding the ground. The forest was alive, trees shaking, thunder cracking. Wolves scattering through the dark, and in the clearing ahead, she saw them. Lorien stood in his full shift. Silver fur matted with blood, teeth bared. He faced something that looked almost like him, but older, darker, bones showing beneath the fur. Eyes red as coals dot the ancient wolf, the first blood-given flesh. The creature lunged. Lorien met it midair, their bodies colliding in a blur of claws and fury. "Lorien!" She screamed. He heard her. The moment her voice cut through the storm, the ancient turned, and its gaze fell on her. Ira froze. The thing moved toward her with terrifying grace, its voice crawling through her mind like smoke. "Daughter of my blood." She stumbled back. "Get out of my head. You carry my heart." The silver light burst from her skin again, brighter this time. The rain turned to steam as it touched her. Lorien's roar broke the trance. He slammed into the creature, tearing at its throat. Blood hit the ground, glowing red-hot. The ancient screamed, the sound shaking the sky. Ira fell to her knees, hands pressed to her chest. "Stop!" The world tilted. The light inside her flared, spilling out in waves that split the trees. She could feel both of them, Lorien's pain, the creature's rage, her own heart beating in time with both dot. Then the voice came again. "One must die, child. One must fall for the blood to rest." "No." She gasped. The bond between her and Lorien pulsed violently. Pain, love, terror all tangled together. She looked up and saw the ancient bite into his shoulder. Lorien fell to one knee, blood spilling into the mud. Her vision went white. She didn't think. She called. Lightning cracked the sky, striking the ground between them. The ancient was thrown back, howling, its body burning in the silver fire that poured from her hands. The smell of blood and rain filled the air. Lorien crawled toward her, his human form returning, barely conscious. "Ira," he whispered. "Stop, you'll burn yourself out." "I won't let it take you," she said, her voice breaking. He caught her wrist, his touch weak but steady. "Listen to me. The bond, it's too strong. If you kill it, you kill me." Her tears mixed with the rain. "Then what do I do?" He looked at her with eyes that glowed faintly, even through the pain. "You choose." The light pulsed one last time, brighter than the moon, and then everything went still. The ancient's voice echoed as it fell into the fire. "The world does not end. It begins again." And when the light faded, Ira was the only one standing. Her hands trembled. Her chest ached. The bond was still there, but fainter, broken. She looked down at Lorien's body, unmoving in the mud. "Lorien?" she whispered. He didn't answer. The first rays of dawn cut through the clouds, painting the world in gold. And somewhere in that quiet light, Ira understood the price of freedom. It wasn't gold. It wasn't power. It was blood, and she had just paid it. The forest was dying. The fire she had called to life still smoldered beneath the rain, silver smoke hurling between the trees. Wolves lay where they had fallen, caught between the earth and the curse. And in the middle of it all, Ira Linvale knelt beside the still body of the Alpha. Lori Vale, the man who had bought her freedom, tied his blood to hers, and promised her a life she didn't yet understand, now lay silent, pale, his heartbeat gone from her chest, but his blood still lived in the mud beneath her hands. It pulsed faintly, glowing red, moving toward her as if drawn to the bond that would not die. "Don't," she whispered, her tears falling into the dirt. "Please. I can't do this alone." The air stirred. The rain stopped. And in the quiet between the storm's breath and the dawn's light, she heard the voice again, deep, female, ageless, "Child of my heart. You were never meant to be alone." Ira's head lifted slowly. The forest around her blurred, shifting into something half real, half memory. The trees glowed with silver veins. The river ran backward, carrying stars instead of water. And from that river rose a figure. Not flesh. Not shadow, a woman of light and fur and moonfire. The first Volf. Her voice trembled like thunder in a cathedral. You called me from sleep and I came. But now you must choose what remains awake.eir a single quotes as heart pounded. I don't understand. Yes, you do. The first Volf stepped closer. Her face was beautiful and terrible, her eyes mirrors of Ira's own. The bond is a circle. Two halves, one blood. He gave his life to anchor yours. If you keep it, you live. If you break it, he does. Ira froze. No, there has to be another way. Balance does not bargain. Her hands trembled. You mean, if I save him, I die. And if you keep your life, the first Volf said gently, he remains where he is, a shadow of what he was, lost to the silence. Ira's voice broke. He wouldn't want me to choose him. The Volf smiled, sad and proud. He chose you long before you could choose him. The blood remembers. Ira looked down at Lorien's face. Rain-dark hair clinging to his brow, his jaw set even in death, as if still protecting her from something unseen. The warmth of him lingered in her mind, the scent of pine and smoke, the sound of his voice saying her name, like it meant something holy, and she knew. Her heart had already chosen. She wiped her tears, her breath trembling. Tell me what I have to do. The Volf tilted her head. Are you sure? Once the bond reverses, your name will vanish from the earth. The world will forget you ever lived. Ira smiled faintly. The world never remembered me anyway. The light around them changed, no longer silver, but white and endless. The first Volf lifted her hand, and the glow from Ira's body intensified until she felt like her skin was burning from within. Her blood was moving, rising, flowing through the bond that connected her to Lorien. Pain struck like lightning. Her chest arched. Her eyes flooded with light. She screamed, not from fear, but from release. The first Volf's voice thundered through the storm. Life for life. Blood for blood. The balance restored. And then silence. When the light faded, Lorien gasped, his lungs filled with air. His eyes opened to the pale gray dawn. The sound that left his throat was half roar, half sob, the sound of a man dragged back from the edge of eternity. He sat up sharply, his chest heaving. Rain poured again, washing the blood from his skin. Ira? He rasped, but she wasn't there. Only her cloak lay in the mud, torn and soaked through. Her scent lingered, rain and wildflowers and the faint shimmer of light still clung to the air, dissolving like breath in winter. Lorien pressed his hand to the ground where she had knelt. The soil was warm. The bond, once a steady pulse beneath his ribs, was gone. But in its place was something else, the echo of her heartbeat. Faint and distant, like a song remembered from another life. He bowed his head, rain dripping from his hair, his hands trembling against the earth. You foolish, brave girl, he whispered. You gave me back my life. He felt something wet hit his palm, not rain but tears. He hadn't realized he was crying until the wind shifted and carried her name back to him. Soft as breath. Eira. He closed his eyes and whispered it. Into the storm. Days passed. The wolves buried their dead and rebuilt what they could. The Iron Guard had been scattered, their leader found dead by the river. The world was quiet again. Lorien ruled, but he was not the same. Every full moon. He stood on the ridge above the valley, watching the light spill over the trees. His eyes had turned silver now, not entirely, but enough that the pack whispered she had marked him from beyond. He could feel her sometimes, in the river's current, in the wind between the pines, in the way the rain paused. Just before it fell. It was like her heartbeat had replaced the rhythm of the world, and that was how he lived, not in grief, but in remembrance. Far away, beyond the valley and the reach of any name, a woman walked through a field of white flowers. Her hair was silver, her eyes pale and endless. She didn't know who she was or where she came from. She only knew that every time the moon rose, her heart ached for something she couldn't name. One night, as she knelt to drink from a stream, she saw her reflection. For an instant, another reflection appeared beside hers, a man's tall and familiar, with golden eyes and a quiet smile. Her breath caught. Who are you? She whispered to the water. The wind answered. Carrying a single word through the stillness. Mine. Her hand went to her heart. The pulse there beat once, twice, harder. The silver light flickered faintly under her skin. She smiled. Though she didn't know why, the moon rose higher, full and white, and somewhere deep beneath the stars, the bond, broken, rewritten, immortal, began to stir again. The spring moon rose over Eldon Hollow, brighter than it had been in generations. The storms were gone, the fires had died, and the wolves, what remained of them, sang not in grief, but in remembrance. It was said the blood debt had finally been paid, that the Alpha's curse was broken, but Lorien Vale knew better. Curses did not end. They only changed shape. He stood at the edge of the valley, the mist curling around his boots. The mountains behind him glowed faintly in the silver light. Below, the wolves of the Hollow Moon pack slept, whole families together at last, unafraid of the dark. And yet he was awake. Always awake. He could still feel her eir a dot. Every breath of wind carried her scent. Every heartbeat echoed with hers. When the moon was full, his blood sang her name. He had tried to bury her cloak after the battle, but the ground refused it. The soil would not take her memory. So he kept it, folded, untouched, a relic of mercy. That night, he stood with it in his hands, the fabric cool against his skin. "You bought me time," he murmured. "Now tell me what I'm meant to do with it." The wind didn't answer, but the moon flickered once, like a heartbeat, and the air changed. The forest shimmered at the edge of his vision, light bending where it should not. A scent cut through the mist, wildflowers and rain. His entire body went still. "No," he whispered. "Not possible!" He followed it anyway, through the river bend, past the willow grove where she once stood laughing, through the narrow ravine that led to the high meadow. And there, under the full moon, stood a woman, barefoot, cloaked in white, her silver hair spilling down her back, her face turned toward the light. It was her and yet, not her. She was too still, too serene, her eyes distant and strange. But her heartbeat, that he knew. He felt it before he heard it, a pull deep inside his chest. The bond they had once shared flaring like fire beneath his skin. He whispered her name. "Ira." She turned. Her eyes, silver and soft, widened as if she were seeing a ghost. "Who are you?" she asked quietly. He stopped a few feet away, breath catching. "You don't remember me?" She shook her head, her voice trembling. "I don't know who I am. Only that the moon sent me here." Lorien's hands tightened at his sides. The air between them shimmered, filled with unspoken words. "She took your name," he said, "and gave you back to the world." Ira frowned. "Then why does it hurt to look at you?" His chest ached. "Because we've met before. Because once you gave me your life." She took a step closer, eyes searching his face. "And what did you do with it?" He smiled faintly, that same tired, aching smile she used to tease from him. "I tried to make it worth the cost." Her hand lifted, trembling. She touched his cheek. The moment her skin met his, light flared between them, the same white fire that had nearly consumed the world. But this time it didn't burn. It breathed. Memories flooded her. The auction, the storm, the bond, his blood on her hands, her name on his lips. She gasped, stumbling back. "I remember." Lorien caught her before she fell. "Easy." Her eyes filled with tears. "You died. I saw you die. And you brought me back," he whispered. "I wasn't supposed to." He smiled softly. "And yet you did." The light dimmed slowly, fading into the quiet rhythm of their breathing. Ira looked down at their joined hands. "The bond. It's still here." He nodded. "Changed. But alive." She frowned. "I don't feel the pain anymore." "That's because the moon took it." He looked up at the sky, his expression calm. "She made it pure again." "Pure?" "Not chains. Not power. Just connection." Ira blinked up at him, her voice small. "So what does that make us now?" Lorien took her hand and pressed it against his chest, over his heart. "Not Alpha and Bond. Not curse and pure. Just two halves that found each other twice." Her tears fell freely then, catching the moonlight. "Do you think she let us keep this?" He smiled, The moon's cruel, Ira, but she's also fair. We gave her blood and she gave us back the world. Ira leaned her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat beneath her palm. It's quieter now, she whispered. Peaceful. He nodded, resting his chin on her hair. Because it's over. Weeks later, the wolves of the Hollow Moon Pack crowned a new beginning. No chains. No blood oath. No kings or hunters. Only families, bound by choice instead of fear. Ira walked among them, her cloak pale silver against the green. She healed what the fire had broken, not with magic but with gentleness. Children who once trembled at the howl of the moon now lifted their heads to sing with it, and every night, Lorien watched her, still in awe that she was real, that the moon had given him back the one thing he hadn't dared to ask for. One night, as the fire died low, he found her standing by the river where they first met. She turned as he approached, smiling softly. You never sleep. Neither do. They stood together in silence, listening to the water. Then Ira whispered, Do you think she's still watching? The moon? He nodded. Always. Ira tilted her face toward the sky. Then let her. For once she can watch something good. Lorien smiled. Something new. He stepped closer, the night air warm between them. Ira, he said quietly, when I gave my blood I thought I was paying for your freedom. And now? She asked. Now I know it was the price of mine. She looked up at him, her eyes bright. Then we're even. He shook his head. Not even whole. And when he kissed her, slow, certain, unbroken, the forest seemed to exhale. The river stilled. The moonlight softened. No curses. No debts. No gods demanding blood, just two souls, bound not by magic but by choice. Years later, when stories of the blood bond faded into legend, travelers would still speak of Elden Hollow, of an alpha with silver eyes who ruled not with fear, but with mercy, and a woman whose laughter could calm storms. They said the moon itself lingered longer over their valley. And when the wolves howled, the sound carried a song, not of sorrow, but of remembrance. Because love, once paid in blood, never truly dies. It only learns to live again.